Hey, what's up? This is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Now, who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to do a fight recap from Liam Paro versus Montana Love. Really quick, if you like the videos, please take the time to subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that thumbs up button. It does help and it does show love and support to this channel. So let's get into this. The fight started off pretty slowly. Montana Love isn't really, he's more of a flashy type of guy. So he wants to circle around and do things like that. But you also got to take into account that Liam Paro, he's been off for quite some time. So, you know, like, they're just going to ease into it. I felt like the crowd was being a little unruly, to be honest with you, like, very early in the fight. And listen, a fight needs time to warm up, because you never really know what it's going to morph into. And when it did morph into what it was supposed to morph into, it did exactly that. Let's see. So Montana Love's biggest weapon, hands down, is his speed. And, you know, his footwork, just his ability to, like, evade a lot of, you know, attacks. And for some reason, moving, you know, just starting off early, I don't know if he just felt like Liam didn't hit hard, or there was just very little respect for the clearly bigger guy in Liam Paro. Let's see. Paro was smart. So one thing he did, which is, you know, if you know anything about me in this channel, what I'm always trying to tell people to do, establish your jab, establish it early. But Liam Paro took it even further. The other thing that I love even more than establishing your jab is a double jab. The double jab is everything. The double jab sets a lot of things up. The double jab can keep your guy busy, and then you can vary in the degrees of impact with every punch. So you're not just keeping him guessing with what's coming next, but you're also keeping him guessing in terms of how hard is this punch going to actually be, which is, you know, a lot to think about when you're dealing with the pace of a fight. So let's see. Montana Love was leading with an extended hook. Now, I get it. Listen, if you're Roy Jones in the 90s, you can do stuff like this. If you're Prince Nassim Hamed, you can do stuff like this. Certain people can get away with stuff like this. Josh Kelly can get away with stuff like this. You cannot. You can't get away with stuff like this. So I get it, you're fast. But there are certain levels of creativity that either need to be warmed up into, or at least establish that you're the dominant guy in this fight before you start doing things like this. In which case, it was adjusted to by Liam Paro, who just came over with the overhand hook. That's all he had to do, and he nullified that. So, again, adjustments. You want to separate fighters from the rest of the herd? Can you adjust in the moment? That's a clear separation of where we belong in this pecking order. So, let's see. That made Montana Love very timid. When you have a guy who's used to doing flashy things and it gets nullified, like that, it can make you timid. So to continue with the lead hook, not a smart thing. But he tried it. I mean, he did try. And I get it. You want to make it entertaining for the crowd. But I think winning is more important. I think, listen, what you do in the beginning of the fight and what you do in the middle of the fight and what you do in the end of the fight are two completely different fights. One part of the fight, you're trying to establish yourself. The second part of the fight, once you've been established, now you want to maintain that. And then you want to close out strongly. That's what that is. Montana Love, he's just kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And it's not really working for him. And instead of, you know, just going back to the basics, like, you know, a jab. He's still not doing that. He's still trying to be flashy. That's not my biggest gripe, actually. My biggest gripe is the fact that he wasn't moving. He wasn't moving his legs. Listen, your greatest attribute is your speed. And that's the one thing that you're not using right now. You're not using your speed. I get it. You want to prove that, you know, you're a macho man. But the reality is he's bigger than you. The reality is it's clearly hitting harder than you. And the reality is he has longer arms than you. And there were several times where you both threw a punch, but because of the distance, your short arm didn't make it, while his longer arm did make it and connected with your face. Let's see. You know, it's dangerous. Here's the thing when you get timid. It's a dangerous thing because now you're just kind of sitting there. And this happened, you know, twice in the night. If you look at the Devin Haney and Regis program fight, you could see a little bit of just timidness in Regis Prograis. And I don't want to say that Montana Love slowed down completely, but you could tell he began to get a little timid. The level of punch impact was starting to grow on the end of Liam Paro. By round 3, 4, Love was completely countering. You know, he wasn't. You're not going to win a fight countering. And you're certainly not going to win a fight countering with one punch while this guy's doubling and tripling up on jabs just to get in to hit you. There's no way possible. That's not going to happen. Paro took the lead and started tripling that jab. I just spoke about that. He started tripling the jab. Now you're pushing Love back. You're making him worried about the level of impact from each jab. But you're also being consistent. You're making him work. And you're making him think. And it's all this stuff conjoined at one time. And he's just backing up. What he should do is exit out this way or this way. But why are you backing straight up? You're just letting the bigger guy know where you're going. But on top of that, he's the bigger guy. Mentally, he already knows he's got your number. You're not doing anything. And you're just backing up. Like, at least keep him guessing. Work with something. Montana Love is typically a more creative guy. So I don't know what this fight was supposed to signify to him. Maybe it's because, Liam Paro did have a very, very long layoff. And maybe the overall perception was, he's not going to be able to catch me. He was out with he had a torn Achilles. So maybe the perception was you're not going to be able to catch me. So all I got to do is kind of, just hang out around here. And then late in the rounds, I'll start to clip you off. Maybe that was the thought process, but he was clearly mistaken. Liam Paro came to fight. Let's see. Montana was clean, but you can't win a fight fighting or punching one punch at a time. I don't care who you are. Unless you punch like Deontay Wilder, which Montana Love does not punch like Deontay Wilder. He's more of a pillow puncher. So if you're going to be a pillow puncher, there's no way you're going to get in the ring with a guy who's bigger than you, punch one punch out of his 3-4 punches, and think that you're going to win this fight. I think it's safe to say we know early you're not going to knock this guy out. So if you're not going to knock this guy out, you're going to have to win by an accumulation of points. But you're not going to reach your target goal throwing one punch at a time, and then on top of that, letting it be a counter punch. It's not going to work. I'm sorry. He's going to lead the dance, and then he was countering after your counter. So he's leading you with the jabs, and then when you counter, he counters you. So he's still getting more points than you, and he's still tagging you more than you're tagging him. And it's affecting you a whole lot more than it's affecting him. Also, the mental frustration of, well, I'm trying all my best stuff, and nothing seems to work right now. That's gotta, it doesn't do too much for your mental. It's clear, Paro was a harder hitter, which only goes back to what I was saying. Why doesn't Montana Love move? He just didn't do it. Montana has good legs, but it doesn't matter how good your legs are. It doesn't matter how great your footwork is. If you don't use it, you don't use it. Use all your skills, all right? Unless it's just a flat-out wash, you use all your skills. One thing about Roy Jones, let me just sidebar. One thing about Roy Jones, even when I'm talking to Roy Jones when he was Superman, he would still use all of his skills. He would win every single round, but he would use everything he ever learned in life in every single round, even though he was light years ahead, even though he was winning on the scorecards, even though he had no care in the world, even though he was faster and stronger than his opponent, he would still work on his craft as if it was sparring. But Montana Love just figures, well, this is my game plan, or, well, I don't need to work on those other things. I just need to focus on what I'm doing right now. No, you should work on everything. You should just keep trying and trying and trying, because what you've been trying thus far has not been working. Basically, Montana Love should have moved. Not backed up moving, but moved, like out of the way, escaping, basically. That's what you should have been doing. If you can't hurt a guy, it can frustrate you. What do you do? What do you do when you know I can't hurt you, but you can hurt me? What do you do? If I can't hurt you, I can at least frustrate you. That's where Montana loves his legs come back into play. If I can't hurt you, I can frustrate you. Because if I can frustrate you, I can trick you. And if I can trick you, I can possibly walk you into something. I'm not saying that if we both shoot our punches at the same time and we both connect at the same time, that my punch is going to be the harder punch. But what I am saying is, if you don't know I'm about to punch, or if you're under the belief that I'm going to hit you with this, but really I'm coming with this, well then, if you don't see it, that's the one that can put you down. That's the one that can possibly finish this fight. But you're not doing any of those things. You're not even frustrating the guy. You're not even frustrating the guy. If you frustrate him, you can mess with his mental. But if you're not doing that, you can't even touch that. We already know physically you're not touching him. Or you're definitely not hurting him. Let me say it like that. You're not hurting him physically. But you can hurt him mentally. Try something else. Psychological warfare is the best warfare. Let's see. I don't know. I guess Montana Love just wants to stand his ground. Liam Paro commits to his punches that, here's the thing. Even if this went the distance, Paro was still going to win. It was still going to win. Like, it didn't really matter. It was still going to win. Then you look at the uppercut that Paro landed, and he stepped into it. But on top of that, while he's stepping into it, Montana Love is stepping into it. And it's just like, dude, why were you stepping into the bigger guy? Guys who, when you hit them and there's no reaction, they have zero fear, and there's no ounce of pain in them when you hit them. You don't step into those guys. You hook off with those guys. That's what you do. You hook off. That's what you do. You vary attacks. That's what you do. But you keep the distance, but you don't step into them. What are you? I mean, I don't know. I mean, some things are boxing 101, and some things are common sense 101. It's as simple as that. I'm not going to step in there with a heavyweight. And just for the record, I'm their size. If I were competing professionally, I'd be fighting at 140 or 142 or something like that. So I'm their size. I'm not going to go in there with a much bigger guy and step into him. What were you hoping to accomplish? And he got put down for it. Now, the follow-up, Montana Love showed zero display of defense whatsoever. You would think he would try to tie his guy up, because clearly his legs weren't there, which is his greatest weapon. They're not there. He doesn't tie up. You would think he would try to just at least move and circle around and run. He didn't even do that. He doesn't even do that. I credit you for having a warrior heart and a warrior spirit for trying to fight, your man back. But no, you got to use this. And right now, I just need to get out of here. I need to regroup, and I need to collect my thoughts. He just put me down. But no, he decides, I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to die here in this spot. Well, that's exactly what happened. Paro's big and strong for this division. He's a fresh glass of lemonade for this division. I think he's fun. I think he's strong. I think and it's not just that he's big and strong. It's not just that. He's smart. Just because you're big and strong doesn't mean you just rush into the fire. No, he set things up. He used a jab. He knew when to back off. He was countering. Just because you're bigger and stronger than somebody doesn't mean you stop using your noggin. It doesn't mean that. And he showed a great display of boxing. And he's got my attention, and he's gained a fan in me. Now, let me just say this. Liam Paro had been off for a considerable amount of time dealing with his injuries. Like I said, a torn Achilles. And he had 2 torn Achilles. And to be off the amount of time that he was off, and then to come back and put on a display that he put on, you got to credit that man. That just shows determination and dedication to your craft. And it shows that he wanted to be there. It shows that he was there for the fire. But it also shows that his boxing level of thinking is very high because he didn't rely on just sheer power. And, you could say, well, I'm bigger than the guy, and, I don't want to risk, my injuries coming back or anything like that. Yet he still used his legs greatly and consecutively throughout the fight. Credit to Liam Paro, he did his thing. And like I said, I'm going to be watching him. I'm a fan. I think he did phenomenal. And I can't wait to see who's next for him. I want to see him in the ring really soon. He said that he's looking next year to be fighting at least 3 times in 1 year. And I think there's a plethora of guys that he can make great and entertaining fights with. But that's my fight recap for Liam Paro versus Montana Love. Drop your thoughts down below. Tell me if you agree with me. Tell me if you don't. Drop your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. As always, please like, please share, please subscribe to this channel.